Friday,
Yeah.
I'm subbing for Lubie, who's off in Spain, and had to come back and tell me how great Spain was. And how, like, oh, you really need to go to Spain, Ken. You would love Spain. On the same fucking day where Trump announces he's going to let Elon computerize all airplanes. Like, have you been on fucking Twitter? You're letting this man now control your lives with airplanes. The best case scenario is that fucking Sophie Rain is going to be walking up and down the aisles selling her OnlyFans on every airplane. And if you don't understand that Sophie Rain reference, you should thank God, because everybody who's been on Twitter in the last few years does. But the way Elon runs fucking Twitter, you want to let this man now be in charge of your actual life by getting on an airplane? There is no way I'm going to Spain. There's no way I'm going anywhere. I would rather take the goddamn Bright Line in terms of safety. And it kills like 4 people a day, but at least they're outside the train. It's not the passengers.
Not a great idea to stop on the tracks. We would have to agree with that.
I 1,000%. I don't want to get on the Bright Line either. But compared to airplanes right now, it seems like the safest ride in the history of history.
The time. Wake up with Defo, joined by Lubie. Welcome to the Defo Show.
Very pleasant. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Defo Show. We start out another week. Lubie and I snuck in a little busman's holiday yesterday, taking President's Day off, which in the past might have been unprecedented for us. I mean, I was working Yom Kippur, Rosh Hashanah against my mother's better wishes. I always thought, hey, if there's a day that you're supposed to be on the air, go and do it. But we managed to work in a little extra time there, and it was a brilliant weekend on the sporting front. I had a lot of great experiences over the weekend. Lubie, I don't know about you. How are you, by the way, before we get this thing rolling here, because there's a lot to talk about on this morning's program.
I'm doing good. I don't know if we're going to reference it.
We need to talk about that.
Yesterday started off sort of sucky. I'm not going to lie.
A shocker, really a shocker for me. I'm still stunned by it, and I still am in a state of disbelief that this actually took place. I'll get to that in just a sec here, because and it ties in with this. The Mustang was filling in for a friend of hers at a local bar. It's really a dive bar. It's the kind of place that a lot of people. There's no reason to be reluctant to go in there, but it isn't exactly like spectacular. This place, drinks are cheap. It's right off the local Publix in the town I live in, Lauderdale by the Sea, a place called The Fountain. And a couple of times that she's worked there, she fills in for a friend of hers when she needs a day off here and there, has something to do. She always tells me, man, you can't believe your biggest fans come to The Fountain. Which I don't know what kind of statement that is. But she actually had a picture. One of the people that is a frequent patron there had a jacket that I had signed at some dolphin event 30 some odd years ago. And the other signature on the jacket was Jim Mad Dog Mandich, who has not been with us for some time. So these were people that were following me during my career here, radio, TV, for a long, long time, going all the way back to when I first got here in the early 80s. And they could rattle off. They were better at it than I was, all the different stations I worked on. I mean, these were real, true fans. So she was there this Saturday, and she said, hey, could you do me a giant favor Saturday afternoon? Stop by and just say hello to a couple of these people here. They're dying to have you come by, and they would really love it. They'd really enjoy it. And I thought, and you know me, Lubie, I feel very awkward in these kinds of situations.
I was going to say that's not really your thing.
I don't like walking into a thing where everybody is going, hey, Defo. I mean, if I'm walking into the track or something and everybody,
they're all buddies.
That's one thing. But when the spotlight is just all on me, as I come in there and then everybody wants to talk, and I'm couldn't be any more grateful that these people feel this way. And it's actually very heartening, because you ask yourself as you start getting older and moving on in life, you're thinking, what the fuck did I do with my life? Did I do anything? And one of the nice things, if you're in, you would have to call this the entertainment business, is to have people tell you that you did something that made them feel better. Is that not what it's all about?
Yep.
They remember something you said. They remember the way that you talked about certain things. You were their 15-minute ride to work, or whatever it is. So
Mhm.
these were people that were going to lay more adulation on me than I possibly ever could have deserved in my lifetime. And a lot of people still following us. Gary, my biggest fan. I took a picture with him, put it up on Facebook, got a lot of reaction. And I couldn't have been happier to meet these guys. I mean, they literally were like my biggest, truest fans over the years. And I've been in a lot of different areas. I covered a lot of different sports, did it in different fashions, radio, like I said, TV, play-by-play, this, that, the other thing with the Hurricanes, Dolphins. So you might have fans from many different factions and areas of interest, but these were just total, I mean, proponents of what we had done, especially in our last years on the radio.
Nice.
Some Brady Quinn references also made, not in particularly flattering terms. And a lot of Lubie mentions. You should be proud of yourself, my man. A lot of Lubie mentions, and many of the people that were there said that they're still following us in our various formats, although always difficult to explain what's going on. Well, what are you doing now? Hey, we're doing video streaming. We're on this.
I mean, a lot of people do what we do now.
And they look at you, yeah, that's nice. And you could tell they have no idea.
I don't know what that means.
The fuck you're talking about. In this case, they did. They still follow what we're doing now with Bleacher Brothers added in for this show and other things that we're doing later on today. Hopefully, this will come off, Louie. I don't know. Did we ever make arrangements with the professor on this? Oh, he's in? Okay, good.
Yeah, he'll be good.
As be talking on a show I do called Conversations. I try to find people that I really enjoy talking to. Charlie Partridge, now a defensive line coach with the Indianapolis Colts. He had his first year there in the NFL. He was the former head coach at FAU. And that came under the heading of some of the things that we like to do on the radio, Louie, where this is a UM-centric area, South Florida.
Yeah.
People don't even consider that there is FIU and FAU for sports.
No,
FAU made a lot of noise with Dusty May, who, I don't know, does Dusty May actually leave Michigan and go to Indiana, which is where his roots were? I mean, he started out as an assistant with Bobby Knight, a student assistant with Bobby Knight. So there may be some incentive to want to go there. You see this a lot with coaches. They want to go back to where it was that they either played or went to school or whatever it was. But, so there may be some interest in that, although I was watching Michigan basketball. And this Dusty May must be a hell of a coach. And I base that on the progress made by this guy, Vlad Golden, who looks like Lurch.
The guy that was on the FAU.
He was on FAU. He went with Dusty May to Michigan. And just the progress that this kid made from being a complete sort of spasticated klutz. Can we do that? Is that incorrect politically?
I mean, he was
I mean, what's off limits from the standpoint of politics? But I'm watching this and I'm looking at this kid. He's getting key rebounds. He knows exactly where to go. His footwork is almost Fred Astaire-like compared to what it was when he was a freshman at FAU. And you're thinking, wow, this guy took fucking FAU to a Final Four. Yes. And here he is. He gets the Michigan job. They were in the toilet under Juwan Howard. After Juwan Howard had some success, boom, straight into an abyss. And he's got them, and you were surprised, as was I, that I saw that they were ranked like 20th. Yeah. So you're thinking, okay, who's ranked 20th? Are the bottom 5 in college basketball in the top 25? Are they really significant? You could say yes, because you have Cinderellas in the NCAA tournament, and it is possible to come out of nowhere and make a run, conference tournament, start really getting better at that time of the year and actually win it all. But I don't know. Did you consider that of any great significance that Michigan was ranked 20th with Dusty May as their head coach?
I mean, it was better than I had heard nothing about them. So that seemed to be an improvement from where they were, like you were saying, under the end times of Juwan Howard. Like that was definitely growth. Nice turnaround. But this Vlad Golden, the progress of this guy, that's the mark of a good coach, huh? He really took this kid from I'm not sure. I mean, maybe the credit goes to some assistant that was working with him, that was working with their big postmen. But I just remember seeing this guy and thinking, wow, you talk about the definition of a big white stiff. That was Vlad Golden when he was a freshman at FAU. Now an accomplished player, big component, key cog in what's going on with Michigan. And they had a thrilling victory over Ohio State, came down to the wire, and Golden was making all the big plays. But the reason I bring this up is because we used to
it was common to just ignore FAU. Their publicity directors, their sports information directors would be calling, begging you, could you please, we got a new coach, could you please put him on for like 2 minutes, just say his name. And most of the media outlets in town were going, fuck you. I mean, it wasn't quite like that, but it just was one of those things where do you have certain topics, Lubie? You've seen this over the years where, and I go off on this all the time, and you're probably cringing saying, he's going to talk about the Australian Open when the Dolphins are playing tonight? You got to be kidding me. Now, that wouldn't coincide because the Dolphins are never in the postseason, but and the Australian Open is in January. We don't have a lot of local football games in January, do we, Lubie? No, not anymore. That's for sure. Nope. But I always felt like it was wrong to ignore this, and we ended up becoming friends with Charlie Partridge, who was the head coach. Unfortunately, endured 3 and 9 seasons at FAU, and yet sort of was given credit, not much credit, but some credit for laying the foundation for Lane Kiffin having the team take off the ensuing year. He had brought some decent players in there and just wasn't getting the results. They fire him. He goes off, becomes an assistant line coach with the Pittsburgh team under Narduzzi, and now is with the Indianapolis Colts. And so he's going to join us today later on Bleacher Brothers. That was all the promo for this show. But getting back to what we were talking about, always great to get validation from people. You meet somebody and you say, hey, you're Defo. I remember when you said this. Yeah, you were talking about that. I loved it that you did some boxing. Nobody else was talking about that. Horse racing, all of this other stuff. So it kind of makes you feel good. And I got a lot of that, a ton of that of late for some reason, Lubie. It's all like coming out of nowhere. And as I said, I'm very happy when they acknowledge you because you were a big part of what we were doing for the last 14 years that I was doing radio down here. But then, I mean, amidst this high of like, wow, I'm inspired again. I must have been doing something right. Don't ever get down about the ups and downs of this whole streaming industry, which, just as you think you're about. I tell everybody this when they ask me how I'm doing. One step away from hitting it and one step away, 1 foot is in the grave.
Yeah.
Is that not the case? Just when you think you got something going, you get something. Wow, we got 200,000 views on this. The next thing you know, all of that material disappears from the internet. And a company that was as well-funded as any in the business, they're funded by Paramount, that Caffeine TV, and they just are wiped off the face of the planet. And then you're watching other things happen, and I don't know, do you get this way, Lubie? You see other guys, like I never understood the fascination with Doug Gottlieb, who was in the news today because LeBron James was trolling him about his coaching. I guess he's at Wisconsin, Green Bay now.
Yeah, it's horrendous. They have like 3 or 4 wins or something.
3 wins. Had just snapped over the weekend a 21-game losing streak. And I would turn on this guy's show and think, who the fuck is this? And you're looking like a guy who's been on 3 different networks. There have been a couple of people you come across, along the journey there, or whatever you want to call it. I don't want to sound like I'm on The Bachelorette, but along the trip that you look at and you're stunned. You can't believe that these people have had sustained success at the highest of levels. And you listen to their show and you're thinking, this guy's got nothing to say. Like nothing. Boring presentation, and almost as if he was mailing it in. I mean, do you get that impression when I listen to Doug Gottlieb, which is rare, but when I've sort of had a radio accident, which Neil Rogers used to talk about, and literally it was just that, right? There are hardly any sports shows on anymore, Lubie, and you have one station in town here now, WQAM. They go into these long breaks, and it seems like they're very frequent. I guess they're getting advertising, but from a content standpoint, there are only 3 shows.
Yeah.
So I punch around, and our old station 940 has network programming, which I'm normally not in favor of. And of course, on Fox, there's Doug Gottlieb. And when the guy comes on, you're like, how the fuck does this guy have a job?
Yeah, he's horrible.
Unbelievable. I mean, just no energy, no enthusiasm, nothing of any great. Maybe I'm wrong about that. Are there a lot of Doug Gottlieb fans out there? But
I don't know.
What's interesting, he takes his college basketball coaching job, first time ever with no experience, has them with 3 wins, just snapping a 21-game losing streak. He took off. He still has his radio job.
Oh, he still does?
Still does it. He was on Radio Row, so he had to take a week off while he was in New Orleans to do shows from Radio Row.
Shut up, really? Oh, that's okay.
What kind of situation is that?
He's not dedicated. I mean,
the guy that would have known all of the details about this, and here we are talking about, and like I said, I'm feeling really good about fans, and I just had a weird experience too with death, because you saw me Friday. Did I not look a little pale? after that trip down to a Gulfstream Park with my friend Big Al. It was
Yes,
probably the most erotic human being I've ever met in my life.
something.
That's saying a lot.
Yeah, because you've known me a long time. He's something.
He calls me a couple of days before, and he says, "Hey, Defo, are you going to the track anytime soon?" I said, "Yeah, I'm going down there on Friday to do the show that we do down there, the Mayo Lunchbox." He says, "Can I get a ride with you? I got something I got to do down there." I'm like, "What are you going to do?" I mean, bet some horses. I'm only there for a couple of hours. Sometimes I stay a little longer if I'm hitting something, but if I'm not, I'm right out the door. Right.
Mhm.
I bring a marginal bankroll because I usually like to play on Saturday in another location, and that's kind of my MO for horse racing these days. So anyway, he tells me that he's got a guy, and I thought it was a relative of his, like an uncle or something, that passed away and wanted his ashes spread at the finish line at Gulfstream Park.
Oh Jesus!
So I'm thinking, excuse me. I'm thinking, I know somebody told me like I was going to spread my father's ashes around at different places, cultural places, and places that he would appreciate still being a part of or a piece of. I don't know. How do you feel about the spreading of ashes, Luby?
I mean, we
Should
did
you
it
just
with
take the box
grandparents.
and chuck it in the trash? I mean, is there any difference? What do you think?
I respect their wish. My grandparents, we put them at the beach, and then my grandfather loved Biltmore, so we played around at Biltmore, and then we spread his ashes throughout.
Oh, you did? Yeah, you did some of that. Okay.
Yes, I respect the dying people's wishes.
But it's supposedly illegal. Every time you bring this up, somebody
Probably.
will remind you, oh, it's illegal. You can get arrested for that.
I mean, it's
And you
yeah.
really get arrested? I mean, is a cop really going to come and bust you? Well,
People
now.
don't watch. People don't watch. I mean, we're in South Florida. People don't know what the hell you're doing. What are you talking about? I mean, are you kidding me? As long as you're not being flagrant or a jerk about it.
Don't you have to kind of do it like the guy in Shawshank where, you dropped a little out of your bottom of your pants?
Yeah. You try to do it
Walk in the yard.
100%. I mean, especially the track's the interesting one. You've always joked about that. I don't know how much you're like, you need access to that area. So I don't even know how. I mean, I guess you'll tell us. I don't know how you do that.
Well, when we were working there and I had a penchant for smoking a joint before I started every show, as you know, Louie, and so I'd be at Gulfstream Park on a remote, and I don't want to get caught smoking weed there. It was still, I don't know that it was taboo or that anybody would really care. But I remember Mike Nyman, who was the marketing director there at the time and a good friend of ours, good friend of the show, telling me, "Hey, listen, don't do anything there that you don't want somebody to know about because there are cameras everywhere you go."
Oh, wow.
Which you find like, how could they possibly be like seeing me here? It's impossible. And sure enough, it's possible that they did because he claimed nothing went on there that they weren't aware of, right? So Big Al is telling me that in broad daylight, around the time of the second race, they already ran a race. He was going to go to the finish line and throw this guy's ashes at the finish line.
Oh, jeez.
Now I'm thinking, I want no part of this.
Yeah, no.
I can't afford to, like, I don't want to be responsible for, like, all of a sudden they cut ties with what we're doing there, and
No.
who knows what's the future may hold. But I
No.
really didn't feel like getting kicked out of there because some guy that I brought to the track that he needed a ride was going to dump his friend's ashes or his relative's ashes there at the finish line.
Nope.
And I figured they were sure to capture this.
100%.
So anyway, he goes through this whole neurosis, so all the way down about how he's going to do it. And I'm saying, listen, Al, I'm going to drop you off. You do what you want. I'm going upstairs.
Yep.
You come meet me, come get a free lunch, whatever you want to do. But I want no part of being on camera with you throwing ashes illegally.
No.
Excuse me, at the finish line at Gulfstream Park. And of course, I've always joked that, hey, I want my ashes spread at the 16th pole where all my horses die. But realistically, excuse me here, Louis.
Yeah, that's fine. Well,
realistically, it should be at the top of the stretch, right? That's usually where the race was lost. So I take Al to an area there, and I say, here's the place that you should do it. Just drop it off here. There's nobody down here. You can do it discreetly, and then come upstairs. He made such a mess of this. You would have thought it was a scene out of The Sopranos, that we had like a dead body in the trunk.
Yeah, what do you like?
He makes me stop in front of like a security person, and then he gets out of the car, and I think he's going to take the box and the bag, whatever, and wander off to the top of the stretch. Excuse me. And next thing I know, he's dumping the whole thing in the parking lot.
No.
Well, like we're the only people there. Like very. I mean, there's no being discreet about this. I mean, we stop a car in the middle of a parking lot. There's a security person looking at us, and he's on the side dumping these
It
ashes
just
off
does
on
it
the ground.
there. What?
And I'm thinking I'm fucked, you know. But I mean, we may as well have had a dismembered body in the trunk of the car.
Like what is like you can get away with it's South Florida. Like you can get away with almost anything. You just have to be
Yeah.
cool. You just have to be cool. As long as you're
Oh,
cool, no
wave
one,
a flag. Hey, we're spreading ashes here.
no one cares. The people are in their own world. Like, are you kidding me? Like they only care if you make them care. If you just keep it to yourself, no one gives a damn.
Yeah, nobody's paying attention to this. It's crazy. So he makes a big scene out of it. And I'm thinking, wow, that was screwed up. And then later he tells me who the guy was, and it turned out I knew the guy.
Oh God.
So that made me feel really eerie because I don't feel very comfortable with death anyway. And I thought, wow, so he had the remains of this dead guy that I knew. And I probably would have taken a little bit of a different attitude because I was developing more paranoia than even he had.
He's being weird about it.
Yeah. Oh, well, he's weird about everything. I mean,
Yeah, just be chill, man. You could literally probably get away with it. Like you could go to the after a race when no one's paying attention and just drop a little bit and go to the front and drop a little bit.
Yeah. Throw a couple of little schmutz over there and let's get out of here. All right. So that was my bout with death. And it was kind of, like almost comedic, right? I mean, it was like a little Pulp Fiction type of scene that we were involved in. And then the reality of it hit me yesterday when I get a call. I got a message from the great Pat Fox of trivia fame,
Yep.
who we've known forever. And this gets back into the whole thing about fans because you really appreciate people that follow you. And while some people might take it for granted, I don't. I'm amazed by it. Really, I always have been. That wow, you actually found what I was doing interesting because I wasn't even sure if I liked it myself, and I usually don't. So sure enough, Pat says, "Give me a call." And I call a guy, and he tells me, and I'm still stunned by this, that our good friend, dear friend of the show, followed us. I mean, you talk about a guy and he followed all radio shows. He was just a fan of radio.
Yeah.
You would be driving to work at 5 a.m. and you'd hear the next caller up is.
I heard him on Dan Patrick when
Right.
I talked to him about it like a month ago. Like he like called Dan Patrick to bring up something that was very like not something Dan Patrick would talk about, and he brought it up on the show, and they all were
I
like,
called every show, and of course, what was the number one guy, all-time winner, he eclipsed Bernie Kaltman, Bernie the K, long time ago, and we found out that Lenny the Chronic had passed away, and this is kind of eerie. Same kind of thing happened to. Wasn't quite the same with our buddy Sonny Hirsch, where he was found. Somebody had to kind of find somebody who had a key to get into his apartment or his place.
yeah,
And they found a body there, and very, very, very sad. And
sad.
I don't know. I mean, naturally, Lenny would have joked about it probably, but it is no joke. I mean, you realize, wow. I mean, mortality, what was hitting us, square in the face there. Because this guy was fine. He was at your trivia thing a week ago.
He was there Thursday, and they
And
literally
how was he? All right.
looked fine. Like he's lost a lot of weight, and he, from what I know, was doing better. I know he had some health scares, but he had like fought through it, and he was there Thursday, giving us shit, and we were giving him shit. It actually hit me weirdly hard, and I mean, he's not, I guess, young, but he wasn't old. He was in his early 60s.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was just tough. I don't know. Like, look, you do this and you're not wrong. Like his nickname was the Chronic, but these people become.
Well, he was chronic. He would be the first call. I'll never forget when I first started doing radio down here, where you were taking calls on shows, which had to go back to the early 80s, like 1981, 82, somewhere in there. Probably like late 81. There was a guy, Sal from Hollywood. Was the first caller to every talk show. And he hated Don Shula. That was his whole thing. He would call up and go, "When are you going to stop shilling for Shula?" And that was his whole act, and you would sit there and go, "Well, I think he's a great coach. He's got he's heading for, the record all time." And he would hear none of it. But he was on. I mean, you would walk in to do a 4:00 show, and at 3:50, Saul from Hollywood already lit up the He was calling the Sex Phones show that used to be on WIOD before me when I had a late night show at one time, and Saul from Hollywood would already be on hold on the sex. What was it called?
No, I never heard of this.
It was Aaron Summers and I forget what they are. The Passion Phones. Did you never heard? Oh, you weren't even born.
I never
Passion.
heard of this. I mean, I was probably born, I presume, but I never heard of this
I mean,
ever.
this was considered like highly risque at the time. Think about that, because yeah, they came up with this idea, and so Saul would be, she would pick up his call by accident, and then he would go, I'm here to talk about Don Shula. The woman, was relatively new. She was trying to make an impression that her show was worthwhile. I think she eventually was syndicated on many stations, and so she would end up taking a call and then get all upset about it because it was like a total departure from what it was that she wanted to talk about. But the Chronic was that way. Always the first player in the trivia show, 25 years worth. You would hear him on every other show in town that was taking telephone calls, which isn't very popular anymore. Would show up at various events and always bring good cheer. And I mean, did he ever miss one of the trivia shows that you do out there live at Landlubbers?
Literally, whenever he would travel, I guess to Toga because he had family up there, so he'd miss like once a year. Like he's a mainstay. Like it hit me really hard. I know.
I can't believe. I still can't believe the guy's not like gone.
He's just a good dude. He was a really good dude, and we had a weird relationship because he was a lot, and we had our issues in the past because he sort of didn't understand how things worked.
Well, I saw Landlubbers stock rose like a half a point yesterday because there's always a battle. I mean, this is true. Like when a bookie checks out, and then you're wondering, did anybody pick up his action?
Yeah,
and inevitably you would get a call from somebody with just a real poison face type of voice, if you can imagine that. And the guy would say, "Yeah, this is Eddie. I'm picking up Vito's action." You're like, "What, Vito? Who?
like he died. I'm free. What are you talking about? If you get free,
Just spent that money, that nickel that I had to give you every week in the graveyard. Go fuck yourself." You had to have the balls at that point to tell the guy to go fuck himself. No.
Yep.
Who had those kind of balls? Then? You never knew.
Ain't me.
In general, I don't know. You guys tell me. And we have the chat line open. Maybe somebody. What is the protocol on that? Guy calls you and tells you that he picked up the debt. You owe your bookie 12 dimes or some loan shark, and the guy checks out, and you're celebrating, and you're thinking, and maybe even with some empathy because there's like a love-hate relationship, right?
Yeah.
Kind of like wanting to be tortured by somebody. So that's the reason you got yourself into this situation, and the reason that you didn't do enough to get yourself out of it. Now, sometimes it just can't be helped because you don't have the money. But what happens on that? So what happens with the Landlubbers gift certificates, Lubie? Lenny had to have at least
they play in a group.
$500 worth.
I mean, they the ones he wins here, I don't know, but the ones he wins there, they have a group, so I'm sure they
put
share
the person's name on them when you give them out. No,
there's no names. No, I'm sure they're. I said it jokingly. They're probably going to be passed on in his will. He probably has hundreds of dollars of Landlubbers.
Right. He could be leaving his children like 25 grand worth of Landlubbers cheeseburgers. No, it could be. But anyway, not to make light of it, because we did want to dedicate this program to Lenny the Chronic. It was a shocker.
Yeah,
and anybody that knew him liked him. It didn't matter. I mean, like you said, you had some issues because he would bring like $300 worth of gift certificates and buy rounds of drinks for the house.
I remember like early on he was going and Freen had some kind of tete-a-tete and he was like going excessively and there was like some issue early on. I was like, dude, like, they're a sponsor.
Yeah, don't cancel our sponsor on it.
Yeah, don't be a jerk. Like, just talk to us. We'll figure it out, man. Like, but he got wise after that. I mean, this was years ago. He got wise and he's been faithful. And Landlubbers, they love him there. Like Landlubbers, like they would reserve his table and they are there every week. And they may go more than just our trivia. I don't know. It's like they're literally like our trivia, which has become sort of like this cool thing where we have a lot of return people. Like they always gauge themselves against the Chronics, and
yeah. All right.
It's sad. It was really sad to hear. He's a really good dude, and he was consistent, and I appreciated the way he followed us. Like he was really loyal, and it really meant a lot to me. And
well, we always do. And like I say, I always find it remarkable when people stop me and say, hey. And I love it, like anybody does. I mean, who doesn't like being appreciated?
Yep.
So, and I don't mind. I'll stop and talk to anybody. As you know, Lubie, I always find that to be very heartening, and you like to connect with people. And the whole premise of this business, what was always based on, you should think of yourself as having a conversation one on one with
Yes.
each individual that's in your audience. That's how you have to kind of perceive this, and not just say, "Hey, I'm here." But you're trying to connect with people. That's what it's all
Yes.
about. We connected with Lenny. He connected with us,
Yeah.
and so we'll use this as a celebration of his life
Yeah.
and mourn his passing. But that was a shocker, came out of left field, and it made me think about not only appreciating the people that follow your shows, but I don't know. I mean, I met my friend Gary there, who, like I said, followed me for 41 years, knows everything, every detail of everything that I've ever done, and certainly appreciate that. And the Chronic was in that category. So
Oh yeah.
definitely, you guys went out, as they say, without fans, we
Oh,
have
don't
nothing
exist.
here. So
100%.
well, we certainly appreciate you guys, and that was a shocker. All right, we have what, USA and Canada. We'll get into all of this stuff. I know I rambled on there for like a half hour, but I was stunned by it, and I did want to pay tribute to Lenny. So, in a meandering fashion, that's kind of what we were setting out to accomplish. That was great. So we'll get into that. USA Canada. It's amazing. It doesn't matter how the game transpired. All anybody remembers now or talks about is that there were 3 fights before 9 seconds had elapsed off the clock. 2, and this was remember when the Red Wings and the Avalanche had this bit of
Yeah.
and they would clash even in the regular season.
Yep.
And the ref had the puck in his hand and a whistle in his mouth, and he hadn't even dropped the puck.
There's already a
And
brawl.
the gloves were off all over, and the goalies were even fucking wrestling each other. It was fantastic. I don't know why do we love that so much? Maybe that's why the big attraction. Vince McMahon Sr. probably seized on that from watching a hockey game and said, "Look at this. As soon as they all start fighting, boom, WrestleMania."
There you go.
Genius is born. I mentioned this thing. We'll get into some college basketball also on the show. The UConn women. All of a sudden, UConn and the UConn women, Gino Auriemma, now favored, I think, to win it all. The UConn women favored to win it all. That, well, I mean, now this isn't necessarily the first time. I mean, when the women's program first came into prominence under Gino, the men's program under Jimmy Calhoun was outstanding. I mean, they had a run of players there. When you look and you're trying to think, what were all of those guys on the same team? I don't know.
Yeah. The men,
really, really good players at UConn there. And I remember that was circa early 90s, and I was doing the basketball games in the Big East. And you're looking, going, how the hell are these scrubs going to compete with UConn? But the UConn men are in a total state of disarray, Lubie.
Yeah.
35 seconds to go, and they're up on Seton fucking Hall. And they have a 7-point lead, 35 seconds to go, and they lose the ball game. Wow. Danny Hurley. I mean, who did he blame after that? He certainly didn't take a look at
No, he's lost his shit. And it's not, that's the problem, is like when these coaches want kids to be composed and they don't have any composure, at some point it flows downstream to the players. Like the guy's just a fucking raving lunatic.
He needs a jacket that ties in the back, doesn't he?
Yes. No, he's lost his mind. Like 100%.
It's over the top, though. I like demonstrative coaches. Everybody does. I mean, when a coach gets fit, but when you start getting to the point of being Bobby Knight and throwing chairs,
he's yelling at fans back and forth as he's leaving the court.
The finger.
He won back-to-back titles, something that hadn't been done since the mid-2000s, something that hasn't been done very often in the sport. Like, just have some pride. You have a bad year. Like, you got to pay money. They're not firing you. Just eat it. Like, what are you doing?
The guy turned down his Lakers job, which nobody would want to coach the Lakers.
Oh, man,
just an impossible situation in many, many ways, in spite of the fact that you now have Luka Doncic and LeBron James, a guy that you could easily make a case. I don't know. Do you put LeBron over Jordan? I mean, this is a stupid argument to bring.
I don't like fighting people.
Marino or Montana? What do you think?
I don't like fighting people. I give them Jordan. I put LeBron right there. I just think the career he's had, the fact that he's like 40, he's still arguably a top 5 player.
But overall productivity, does that balance out the few extra championships that Jordan had won?
It won't.
People never lost in the finals.
The fact that he's 6-0 in the finals, and it's a shortened career. And when he was at his best, like there's a litany of Hall of Famers that missed out on titles because of Jordan, and that goes into the lore. And his thirst for winning and all the stuff that LeBron, like, it's going to be Jordan. That's fine. I don't fight people. I just think LeBron, I think because of that, we didn't appreciate LeBron the way we should have. The holier than thou feeling he gave off pissed people off. And the idea that he kept leaving pissed people off. And the fact that he's not perfect in finals like Jordan, and he's not the consummate competitor like Jordan. Like, he has off the court interests, and he makes probably more money off the court than he does on the court, which was never Jordan. Jordan literally has struggled the last 20 years trying to figure out what to do after the game, whereas LeBron's already been doing that since he was fucking like a rookie. Like, it's just, they're
done pretty well for himself, though.
Well,
I mean, that deal, and I don't. It certainly wasn't the greatest movie by any stretch of the imagination. That thing about
the Jordan bullshit,
Jordan and Nike, but yeah, I mean, a genius deal that was made by his mother, where she was like Mr. Wonderful on Shark Tank, where I want royalty.
Look,
it was kind of like, I remember how people just absolutely went nuts when Reggie Jackson had the audacity that after a certain attendance figure was reached by the California Angels, who struggled for attendance, even though they had very good teams. So they were definitely the redheaded stepchild of the Dodgers in Los Angeles. And remember, he said, I want 50 cents a ticket every time you sell a ticket over $1 million. And they gave it to him. And people were like, oh, they were appalled by that. Same concept with Jordan, but I'm sure it made him filthy rich. It's kind of like getting into a Democrat versus Republican argument, isn't it? If you're going to make a case for LeBron versus Jordan as the greatest player of all time.
Yeah, people are
you're not going to convince anybody that already has made up their mind that LeBron is better.
And it's fine. I think LeBron can stand on his own and stand alone, and he's had a career that's unfathomable. I mean, he's been to 11 finals. He's won 4. He's won titles with 3 different franchises. Like, it's very impressive, the career he's had, and
the sustained brilliance,
and the fact that he's done it for so long. Like,
and
he's
from the beginning.
40. Yeah, like, he's done it from his rookie year all the way through to 40 years old. He still is, again, he's at worst a top 10 player, and if you look at the top 5, he's as consistent statistically as all of them. Like,
early days of Jordan too, where nothing overwhelming, and with the Bulls,
finished weird.
And finishing touch with the Wizards certainly was not any great exclamation point on a brilliant career. Under Leonard Hamilton, your man. Yeah. All right, we're going to come back with more. Well, we have a lot to discuss here, and we've eaten up most of the time, so that's kind of the way we like to do it. The UConn women, though, I mentioned that, and they beat South Carolina.
Oh, wow.
Snapped a 71-game home winning streak for the Gamecocks. So now they're installed. And Notre Dame is the number 1 team. They had an easy victory last night. Are we paying more attention to women's college basketball? Is it all post-CC? Because before Caitlin Clark, would there ever be even a half a minute dedicated to women's college basketball on any show? Lubie, it seems like you almost can't avoid it. Is it being jammed down our throat by ESPN, or is it deserved? I think it's sort of becoming deserved, is it not, Lubie? I've softened my stance.
It's fine. I don't watch it, but I get they need content, and people have opened up to it. So
some of these girls can play, man. They really can. As I've talked about many times, my problem with it in the beginning was the same thing, WNBA. You just don't have the depth of players that have that caliber of talent. And so it becomes like watching, dare I say this, an MLS game or an XFL game or now United States Football League or whatever they call it. But, and you're saying, okay, there's some guys here that are really good. But for the most part, there's just no depth to make it competitive. And that was one of the problems with women's sports, especially women's college basketball. But it's not the case anymore, Lubie. It's not the case anymore. So, we have expanded our horizons in discussing that as well. And, wow, we got spring training, and a hell of a golf tournament took place. The Delray Tennis was kind of fun. I was watching a little of that. So we'll be back with more in a moment on the Defo Show here on a Tuesday. And dedicating this show to Lenny the Chronic. Wow, Lenny, it's still, I'm in a state of complete disbelief on this one.
No, it hit me hard. I mean, again, I saw him Thursday, and he looked, I know he looks fine. Like
that's too weird that you just saw the guy walking around and he was looking good.
Yeah, he looked, from what I know, fine. He lost by a point, and they had won 2 weeks in a row, and Gergs was excited because he did his job and kept him from winning. And he was like, "All right, we're gonna come in for next week." I was like, "Yeah, I'm sure you will." And they didn't play our trivia last week because I tried to mix it up, and he and Ron were giving me guff. Like I didn't think anything of any of it. It really hit me like a ton of bricks yesterday. Like that really threw me
Unreal.
off.
Yeah. All right. We'll be back with more in a moment. Now that.
The time.
Beat Fofo. Play the ponies in style at Champions, the outstanding simulcasting room at beautiful Hialeah Park. Yes, the grand old lady of thoroughbred racing has never been more vibrant, and you can wager on the races from the top tracks around the country while enjoying a cocktail at the Brass Rail Bar or any of the fine food served throughout the facility. If poker is your game, you're covered in style, and you can play all your favorite Vegas-style games, including blackjack, craps, and roulette, in Hialeah Park's sizzling hot casino. Get a player's card when you walk through the door for all kinds of generous amenities, including our favorite, free play, when you come out to the ultimate casino and entertainment destination, Hialeah Park.
These days, we're all looking for comfort anywhere we can find it. Thank goodness for Landlubbers Raw Bar and Grill in Plantation, because they are making sure you are as comfortable as possible. First of all, they're not only open for delivery and pickup. All you have to do is go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both pickup and free delivery. You're going to have the best wings in the world. You're going to have a great burger. You're going to have their amazing soups. Again, Landlubbers, Raw Bar and Grill. It's nice and easy. Just go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both your pickup and free delivery. Thank goodness for Landlubbers for making you always feel right at home.
Are you looking to buy your first home? Have you been turned down for a loan? Do you need to refinance or get money out of your home? Call Michael Kodsey, CEO of Choice Mortgage. He's been helping the South Florida community get mortgages for 30 years.
Hi, this is Michael Kodsey, CEO of Choice Mortgage. We have the most competitive fixed rates in the market. Call me 24/7, 561-441-2730. And remember, I don't just work banking hours. To make the right choice for your home, call Choice Mortgage.
Ric Flair, the world's heavyweight champion. I don't have to say a lot more about the way I feel about Ric Flair. No respect, no honor. There is no honor among thieves. He put hard times on Dusty Rhodes and his family.
The only way to get your morning started is with Defo, joined by Lubie, right here on the Defo Show.
All right, welcome back to the show. Going to be with you guys, Jeff DeForest. We got Mike Lubitz. Spring training is underway, Lubie. There isn't a overwhelming buzz here in town about the Miami Marlins. Most people think they're going to be dog shit this year, and evidence would be there. You're trying to find, if you're a baseball fan, you're trying to find any fuse, any spark, anything that would ignite an enthusiasm, any level of optimism about what was going on. I've always consider myself a reasonably good scout of things, Lubie. I don't know if you would share that same opinion, seeing as my picks at the track and in gambling tend to be very negative overall. You're a loser. But I've seen things and expressed them on shows, and we've had a couple of times where you're looking and go, "Oh my God, to spot that early on is a sign that maybe you should be scouting for the Marlins or some other team as opposed to the people that they're paying big money to go out there and put together a team, assemble a large roster of stiffs." Correct. Mm-hmm. So anyway, I'm watching Bruce Sherman, who is a goofy-looking guy, man, the owner of the Marlins. Shouldn't he have like a little hat with a propeller on it or something, this guy? I don't know. I mean, he may be a very distinguished gentleman. He could be a hell of a nice guy. Do we know anything about Bruce Sherman?
No. I know he sucks.
Off as being any kind of lecherous piece of garbage like Jeffrey Loria did.
No, but that's the funny thing is, as much as Loria sucked, they won at least once under him. This has been a fucking disaster with Sherman. Like, it's a total joke. Like, they're literally...
When they won, while he tried to sabotage everything. I mean, think about it. Digging Jack McKeon out of a shallow grave. I actually was looking up some statistics about the 2003 Marlins, who ended up winning the World Series. And just to see... and I remember thinking as I was watching the dreadful 1998 team, and then subsequently moving like another year forward, I thought, you know what? there are some signs of life here. It's not like a total waste of time. Some of these guys can actually play a little bit, and they might develop, and they did.
Yes.
And that was a big part of it took a lot of things to fall into place, as you see with any championship, because Dontrell Willis had to come along at that time.
Well, and they signed. They didn't do anything in the offseason before they signed Pudge, and Pudge was supposedly done, and no one was really talking about Pudge. And then he set like the playoff RBI record. Like he literally was.
He had a great year.
He was awesome in the playoffs. Like he was so great in the play. Like for a young ball club, like he was the metronomic presence, and he was great defensively, and he was huge at the plate. Like that was one of those things before the season no one really paid attention to, and ended up being huge. Like the young staff that we had heard about for years, Beckett with the fucking blisters. They lost AJ Burnett like before the year. It was like it was supposed to be a disaster, and it finally came together. It was very Panthers-esque, where I remember hearing about those guys for like 3 years, and then finally like they all came together at the right time. Levon was 97, but like just that young group with Burnett and Beckett and Penny, like they came together at just the right time. Yeah, look, but that's the thing is, as bad as Laurie was, and he did do whatever he could. He had Hampson there, who was a fucking weasel. Like they found a way to still win in spite of that. Like, at least once. Like this group, and it's funny. Like they made a couple playoffs, so and they gave us hope in a way that was like, oh, maybe they're building the right way, quote unquote. And then they just tear it down in the middle, get rid of the president, the GM that's doing a good job. Like it's almost worse because like he hasn't been a jerk. He hasn't been saying stuff to the public like Loria with his weirdo crap about
How was Skip Schumacher gone after 2 years?
Yeah, he hired a good manager. Like he did all the thing. He went and got Aang, and then she was good. Like, and then they just blow it up for no reason. Like, it's worse in a sense because you're like,
I mean,
what are you doing?
Yeah, so you ask yourself, I mean, is there any reason for optimism? I'm watching this guy at a press conference yesterday, and I didn't really take in all that much of it because I'm looking, and immediately you start hearing in your head, send in the clowns. I mean, kind of happier. But I do remember thinking back that, wow, as bad as this team is, and everybody's trashing them because they'd won the series in '97, and people were still, I mean, are they not? There's a lingering upset about the fact that Wayne pulled the rug out from underneath that team. It was 2025, and you will still find people that go, yeah, well, if Wayne hadn't gotten rid of everybody.
I mean, I was hurt. Like, you really wanted to see that they had a really good team, and they had a lot of veterans, and you wanted to see them at least come back and see what they could do. I was like in middle school. I remember it like crushed me. It was because people had finally bought in, and I know you talked to him, and he wasn't happy with the playoff crowds, but by the end of it, you were getting attention, and people were really excited. And then literally within like weeks, he just blew it up. It was like that was crushing. Like that.
And we know this is true of many cities, but especially true in the town without pity. And that is South Florida, where if you win, all of a sudden, wow. I mean, remember, people were marching down to bars. They were packed.
Yep.
Watching, and the same thing happened, I guess, to a little bit of a lesser degree with the Stanley Cup Finals. Around 97 or 96, 97, whatever that was.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, people will embrace a winner here, but they do not. You talk about indifference. I mean, it is beyond settled in to the point of I can't imagine what this is going to look like this year. I really can't. But we did spot that early on, and we had another time where. I remember mentioning to you, and you were laughing at me when the Heat were 11-30 that one year, and I said, "Yeah, you know what, Lubie, I'm seeing a couple of things out there that might indicate that maybe these guys aren't as bad as their record says they are." I know Bill Parcells famous for that quote: "You are what your record is," but not always, right? I mean, and you always hate this one when saying, "Yeah, well, you know what, we're the best 3-12 team in football." Yeah. Yeah, because there's only two of them. You in Tennessee. Get the fuck out of here.
Exactly. Well, okay. That's not this great claim.
It's good to see if you see something as it's evolving, long before the other people catch on, and where you're almost being laughed at. Yeah, there's land over there. Okay, Chris, get back on the fucking boat. Go back to Italy, you asshole. I hope you don't fall off because the Earth is flat. You really got that wrong too. Kyrie Irving even telling him to this day, "Hey, Chris, you were wrong." But the reason I bring this up, the idea of having some foresight, is there any way you can envision anything positive, Lubie,
Oh, for the Marlins?
happening for the Marlins? And that's a bad way to go into a baseball season, isn't it?
I mean, look, they have, because Andy was asking last week, can you name 3 guys?
Is there anything we can latch on to?
Well, I can name the young pitchers. Now your guy Sixto, they finally got rid of, but the kid Yuri Perez, I think he's still with them. The kid Max Mayer, I think he's still with them, and Alcantara's still with them. Like again,
Coming back.
I presume they'll be gone, but until they go, they're young arms that have all had interesting moments. So, and even Alcantara's not old. Like that's the kind of thing that can make a bad team not horrible, right? Like if you
Is it possible too that guys that came up in the Tampa Bay Rays organization's front office, which have been largely acclaimed, all of them. I mean, there aren't that many, but you have a few that have gone on.
Yep.
Right, the guy with the Dodgers, wasn't he a Tampa Bay guy?
Oh, he was
Schwartzman or whatever his name is. He's a Jewish kid. Yeah,
Friedman. There was a kid, guy
Friedman,
and he went there and became president. And they always
funny. Imagine this guy. Can you imagine it? He goes from the Tampa Bay Rays, where he's having to do stuff, with matchsticks and balsa wood, and then he goes out to a place where they're playing with aluminum bats. It's amazing. Just clobbering people over the head, clubbing of seals, my friends. So, I mean, but I'm looking at this guy. Is it possible that, like, there was one guy that just didn't get it, and somehow he got credit for being part of this organization, and he's, the kid that takes over his parents' business and just buries it in a short period of time? Is it possible that there's no hope whatsoever, that the future is so bleak? Yeah, we got the wrong guy. And how far down? I mean, how naked can you get? I guess would be the question with that team. How far down in the gutter can you be stripped down and bounce back and make a comeback in any reasonable period of time? I don't know that can be done in Major League Baseball today, especially the way things are structured. Where I mean, who's winning? Who was in the World Series last year? The 2 highest payrolls. So does it take a genius to figure out that would, like, you always love the Cinderella ride where with the team with no money, like the Rays, finds their way and fights their way against the evil system.
Yeah, for sure.
And the monsters that are occupying it, the Department of Government Efficiency. And there kind of is that in Major League Baseball, is there not? I mean, you literally have like Musk and Trump out there with a couple of teams, and then everybody else is like, "Look, what? I'm fired. I just got this job."
What the Dodgers are doing, the Yankees have tried to keep pace, and the Mets have come in and spent a ton of money. Yes, it's the haves and the have-nots a great deal, but look, you've seen baseball; it doesn't be a shit. So it guarantees you at least the conversation. Whereas where the Marlins are, you're not in the conversation, but it doesn't guarantee you titles. I don't know. The Marlins. I mean, look at the young pitchers. Play above their head and stay healthy. Which
you're actually providing a ray of hope here.
I don't. Yeah, I know. I'm talking about the over. The over under 63 and a hook. I mean, 65 wins is still a suck ass season, and then you'd hit.
It's horrible. You're losing almost 100 games.
So, like, I could see them
every night. You go to the ballpark. You're down 6-1. You can hear the guy in the left field bleachers going "rag on," clearly on TV.
100%.
Wasn't that guy at the Hurricane games in the 90s? Oh, we sat there right next to him, and he did that the whole ball game. Get the fuck out of here! No, so it's weird to go into a baseball season without a single. I mean, if you're the White Sox, did they do anything substantial? They were horrendous last year, unbelievable, worse than the Marlins. And the Marlins couldn't have got off to any more of an inglorious start. As what were they, like 3-35 at some point early in the season? They were just absolutely ridiculous. No ray of hope, but yet. This is what I love about some of these sports press conferences. There's Bruce Sherman with a little pinwheel hat on in the dugout, and the people are all smiles around him. That sounds good.
Oh, they're getting paid. Of course, they're happy. They don't give a shit.
Well, the henchman, yeah. I don't know what kind of is this guy, like a Steinbrenner behind the scenes, or where a ruthless Nick Saban type? But do we know anything about the way he operates?
No, but I don't get
somebody else calling the shots. I mean, is this a Musk Trump situation? What do you think?
No, I mean, I don't. Yeah, I don't think he ever. He's not a baseball guy. He's just broke. Like
How is he broke though? I mean, he can't be
I mean,
broke.
I mean, he's not broke in life. He's broke
Yeah.
as it is to own a professional sports team. Like these people are worth at least $1 billion. He's worth like less than 500 million. And again, in life, that's an amazing haul, and he's done great for himself. That's not
$500
owner-
million. Wow.
It might be worth less.
Short-
Like he just all these owners are worth billions and billions. I mean, Ross is worth billions and billions of dollars. Like he is very low on funds compared to other owners, and it's
Kind
annoying.
of like when Bruce McNell didn't actually own the shirt on his back,
Yeah,
but
exactly.
still owned the LA Kings.
Well, he was broke actually. Like this guy's not broke in life. He's just broke for ownership. He was a bullshitter. That
His
guy.
check cleared that I got from
That's good.
Stuma Stables. 5 dimes. Yeah. Still the classic there when Barry Gordy, the actual Barry Gordy of Motown fame, is telling Bruce McNall, who owes us $5,000 for some radio advertising that we were doing on a show at Santa Anita. And he's telling him, what are you paying these guys for? They didn't do nothing for you.
Yeah, get the fuck out of here.
Like, who the hell is this guy? Almost bum. I want you to meet my friend, Barry Gordy. That was great.
Like, oh, Jesus.
Classic. All right, so no hope you're giving. Jonathan Martin says he wasn't being bullied by Richie Incognito. Are you buying that? Or is that like after
Yeah,
the
it
fact?
makes a lot. I mean, King Incognito was sort of a jerk off, but he was a jerk off within football realm. It felt like Martin was soft and that he just was trying to find something to blame, and he got away with it. He still left football and was disgraced, but at
God, it's
least
funny.
didn't blame him.
People are screaming about this Yannick Sinner suspension. That I mean, top players. I'm surprised they're coming out. It seems like they're against Sinner. Trying to get my perspective on this, but WADA, which I mean, you talk about strict penalties for testing positive for drugs. If Barry Bonds had faced these guys, my God,
Oh yeah,
they would have executed him.
yeah.
Would have been crazy. Would have taken him out, blindfold, cigarette, boom, go away, Barry. You're out. That they suspended some skater for supposedly testing positive for the same substance that Sinner did. Tennis player, #1 in the world, great player, young Italian kid.
Mhm.
I like everything about him, everything that I see, and I don't. It's hard to conceive that this guy was cheating, but was he? I don't know. I mean, who am I to judge? He had some kind of minor traces. This is very Bob Baffert-esque. It's almost as if Baffert became his trainer. But he had minor traces of something that supposedly isn't all that advanced in terms of performance enhancement. That really doesn't impact that so much. Some skater, though, tested positive for the same substance and was suspended for 6 years by the same organization. 6 fucking years, Lubie. Is that the equivalent of a lifetime ban? Holy Pete Rose, what are we talking about?
I mean, that's a lot as an Olympian, especially skaters. You don't do that till you're older.
All right, so at first, Sinner was absolved and sort of acquitted. They bought his story, and there was no suspension levied.
Okay.
And then that was one organization. And then another one, WADA. This WADA came back, and they must be run by the strictest of human beings.
Crazy, yeah.
Yeah. And they said, well, we're going to reopen this case, and the penalty could be, a couple of years. And so he settled on a 3-month suspension without having to go through all of the trials and tribulations. And now the other tennis players are screaming, what the fuck? And this guy got off light because he's like a popular player.
Yep. Well,
you don't think Djokovic would have received the same treatment, or they would have banned him for life?
No. I mean, if he's a top talent, they always get breaks. Like, hello, welcome. Like, are you kidding me?
They've suspended other, really top players. So Simona Halep, I don't know if she was at the very top of her game, but she got like a couple of year ban. Sharapova, I think, also was banned for.
Yes, well, Sharapova, that thing was crazy, and she was already on the downturn. I feel like when she got hammered, like I don't think she was.
Yeah, she was kind of at the end of her career.
Yeah, she wasn't great. Like that's the thing is it's when they're not great, it's easy for them to hammer them. It is curious when they don't.
This guy is at the very top of his game. Just won the Australian Open. You would want him around for all of the Grand Slams. A terrific player. He's moved forward while Carlos Alcaraz is. I don't know that he's taken a step back, but are you hearing about Alcaraz all the time now?
No.
And he may not be as familiar because he's not as flamboyant a player as Carlos Alcaraz, a young guy who was just so exciting to watch. You were riveted to every match he played. But this guy, he's beating the shit out of everybody. And he does it with style and really impressive fashion. He's kind of like what Djokovic was a couple of years ago. So it's 3 month suspension, and they're screaming about it, Lubie, screaming that this reeks of injustice and that this guy got kid glove treatment, and yet his story. I mean, it wasn't like he was telling a Canelo Alvarez story. Well, we should do that. We should research that. Would that be an interesting topical show? You like to do topical sports talk? The lamest excuses for
good.
testing positive. I mean, probably Baffert would have to take the cake. No,
Yeah, well,
there's supposedly some groom pissed on the hay, and then
he ate the piss. And then
good one, Bob.
That's
All right, we'll leave you with that. Tribute to Lenny the Chronic. Well, we love you, Lenny the Chronic, and I can't believe we're going to do a show just 2 days from now that he's not going to be the first.
You'll be missed. Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
Wow. Will you leave an empty chair at the Lovers in his honor?
I
should
want
at least the first week. You should the first week.
I want to do. He always sat in a booth. I want them to do something where they put like a glass or something for him. Yeah, I don't know. He was a mainstay there, so it's gonna
get
be
a bunch of those gift certificates from whoever goes through his stuff and make like a plaque. We're laughing because we love you, Lenny.
Yeah, no, I miss. He's gonna be missed. He's a really good man.
All right, yeah. So we lost a lot of high praise for you, Lubie.
No,
whatever we were doing it right. And people say they still find us, even though if you said, "Well, how are you finding us now?" They go, I don't know. So it's great. Bleacher Brothers too every day, and then later on today we're going to have Charlie Partridge on our conversation show, and I always love talking to that guy.
No,
I don't know. Do you think he's kind of? I don't think he's been restricted by the NFL to giving his opinions, and he certainly would be wide open on college football.
Yeah, he is who he is.
All right, beautiful. All right, Lubie, you have a great day. We'll see you later on. Where is this happening? Coral Springs, right by your house, right?
Taco Cap, Coral Springs at 1:00, and then 4:00 we're at Corvina, Boca Raton.
All right, I'm gonna have to pass on that one to get back here. But, nonetheless, yeah, always good. That taco craft is great, and you love it because what? 5 minutes from your
5 minutes from my house.
That's the only place, one of like a handful of places we go that you get a break.
Yes, it's the only place close to me in all the places we go.
Otherwise, you're schlepping, man.
It's a lot of driving.
All right, we'll see you next time as we leave you know that.
The time.
It's 9:06.
Let's go to eat a damn snack.